Welcome to Radcast, the Random Ass Dudes podcast where absolutely nothing's off limits. Hosted by two guys with no script, no agenda, and no clue what's coming next. If it's random, it's fair game. Tune in, laugh with us, argue with us, or just wonder, what the hell did I just listen to? New episodes come out weekly, and pure chaos is guaranteed.
All right. Well, welcome to Radcast.
Thank you.
Ryan?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How
Yeah.
about yourself?
Good. Are you a little nervous?
Not as much as I thought I'd be.
Yeah. So Nate's not going to be here today. He's not feeling too well.
Gotcha.
So for those of you that were excited to see Nate in his beautiful calves, he is not here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know you had to wear shorts to be on the podcast.
Oh no.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, only Nate. Only Nate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And if you ever want to see his calves, he's on Only Calves. I'm just kidding. So, what is it about this podcast that you want to get out of it?
Honestly, it's just kind of cool to do it in general.
Yeah.
I don't really put myself out there as much, you know. And, seeing what you guys have done so far with the podcast, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
The guest you had on last week or your last episode anyway.
Yeah.
And then just seeing the back and forth between you and Nate. It's almost like we're, just hanging out and talking. So
yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I really do enjoy it, and I really hope it does well.
Oh yeah. Especially with you guys, and I think that's what we're looking for in the world is more realness. We're surrounded by so many fake things and just this facade of a person that people follow, that I think a lot of the people in the world now want to hear from normal people.
Yeah. Well, if you look at, I feel like when I was a kid, you look at shows, a lot of the shows were of like middle class, ordinary people.
Oh yeah.
Like American Gladiator.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see any celebrities on there.
No.
Or like just all the game shows. It was all just regular people. Now they're just shoving like famous people in like everything.
Well, you'd watch, I'm going to age myself, Family Matters,
Yeah.
And it's just the normal American family, and that's what you had to look up to as a kid. You're like, oh, that's so cool. These are great people. And now you're like these young kids are looking up to the dude that has a Lamborghini or,
Yep. All like the big influencers on
There's no
social media.
It's not realistic. It's, there's no value there other than monetary. You know?
When my daughter Hayden, she was like, I don't know, 5th, 6th grade-ish, maybe a little bit younger. She was really into like the Charlie D'Amelio.
Oh, yeah.
And they would have like, or she was into like the YouTube channels where like the families would record themselves doing stuff, and it's always something cool, right? They're always doing something cool, something nice, and there's a lot of times where I would have to be like, hey, then just remember that is not real life.
Oh yeah,
that's not real.
Yeah,
it may look real, but it's not real.
Yeah, you're sitting there and your kids are like, we're bored.
Yeah,
can we build a $10,000 water park in our backyard
right
this weekend?
Yeah.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And then they ruin Christmas because you have those kids that just open toys on their YouTube channel.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we got to step it up.
Yeah. I know, right? Dude, I don't know how many toys my kids have, man.
Oh,
it's crazy.
I could take a shovel and just clean up their rooms.
Yeah. So where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Peoria, Arizona.
Peoria.
Yeah.
You did go to Peoria High School.
I did go to Peoria High School.
We already talked about that.
It was a long time after you did, but I did go there.
Long time after?
Yeah.
Not really.
What year did you graduate?
05.
Oh, okay. I thought you were older.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Ah, dang, dude. I mean, I could be. Shoot, I got all this gray hair, man. I was looking at videos the other day of me when I went to Indiana, and I barely had any gray hairs, and now I'm just like, oh, dang, dude.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Came quick.
I keep my hair really short for a reason.
Yeah.
Except, my wife will look at me and she's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Don't look at me like that, please." No.
Go to a different angle.
Yeah. No. Peoria was good. I loved Peoria. It was a cool school to go to.
Very diverse, huh?
Yeah, super diverse. It seemed like everybody got along though. We had. I mean, I'm sure everybody's high school experience is different.
Mm-hmm.
Based on your perspective, but for the most part, there wasn't a lot of issues, at least in the groups I ran with, and we hung out with everyone.
Same here. So this is your company.
Yes.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right. Thorman Land Management. So tell us a little bit about that.
So basically what we do, we have a few different sides to the business, and I always hate explaining it to people because different sides kind of coexist together.
Mm-hmm.
So because when you get in the world of landscape and plant related things and irrigation, it all kind of goes together, whether it's commercial, agriculture, or residential. So but for our residential side, we do a lot of hardscape installs, artificial turf. Just somebody bought a new house and wants this badass backyard, we'll do it.
And that's called hardscape?
Hardscape, yeah. So basically, your pavers, your
gotcha.
All that kind of stuff where, but we'll do brand new installs, we'll do irrigation repairs, things like that. We've got small irrigation, and then like you go into the city of Phoenix or things like that, there's big irrigation where they flood their lots and things like that. So, and then the commercial side of the business, we do a lot of work for other businesses, multifamily housing, doing installs, fixing things that break. I mean, we do asphalt repairs. We go in and grade empty lots, for the delivery trucks to go through. You name it. And then on the ag side, which I do a lot with my buddy, we just can be anything from flood irrigation to chemical application to running a tractor every day. So
okay. And when did you start this business?
A couple years ago. So it's fairly new. I mean, but loving every minute.
Are you busy?
Yeah, it comes and goes. Especially with any new business. Some days you're sitting there going, but and then other days you're like, how am I going to get all this done?
Why? Why did you start this?
Well, I think with anything, I just got tired of doing work for other people. I spent my entirety of my life just working, and I was always very motivated to work. I'd put in long hours. You can ask my wife. I was gone from sun up to sundown, and I'm like, finally you hit a point where you're like, I should just do this for myself. You're making money for other people, and you'd rather do it for yourself and make money for yourself. And I kind of march to my own drum. So like, it's nice to be able to make those decisions on my own. That make or break the company, rather than sitting there going, I don't agree with you.
Now, when you said you were working with other people, were you doing this type of work, or were you doing something different?
Well, so I kind of started out in the ag side from a very young age. Doing anything from hay work to just overall farm work. I mean, we were young, so we probably threw more rocks at each other than actually did any work. But I kind of fell in love with that because I was in FFA in high school, and it just translated over. And our FFA program was generally ag related, but we had a lot of the landscape side because we were more of a city chapter. So we had golf course management, greenhouse management, etc. And so that kind of transitioned into a landscape career. So I had a period, I got married really young. We had kids, and so I did all these like different jobs. And so they weren't always landscape related, but finally when I went full-time landscape, I did operations for a fairly large company.
Okay.
And it was really cool. They took care of me. I had 75 to 100 guys depending on the season of the company. And
is it like landscaping, like just going to a house, trimming bushes, or actual like laying down like the hardscaping like you talked about?
It was everything. It was more of a commercial business though, so nothing residential, which it was kind of nice because you'd have 120 locations that you do for somebody, and you had one person to answer to, where residential, you do 120 houses, you have 120 bosses,
Damn.
So I went and did that, and I was always just kind of following the money. Growing family, you want to take care of your family, you're just like, okay. So my last stop before I started the business was more of like the corporate side of things. They brought me in, and it was really hard for me. I can't sit at a desk.
Yeah. Were you able to learn something from that though?
Yeah. I didn't hang out there very long just because I just couldn't. People bring you into their business for a reason.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to change things, they say they want to change something, and if they don't actually follow through with it, why are you there?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt. I was just like,
gotcha.
It's time to go.
Yeah. Now, starting your business, like, how is that process from like day one? Like waking up and saying, all right, this is what I got to do.
Well, so when I left, it was kind of like an oh shit moment, like that.
So you didn't have you weren't getting things prepared when you left.
I did, but you're never as prepared as you want to be. I could have done it a lot different, and I probably should have, but we're not always going to do what we should have done.
Right.
So I wasn't, not to say I didn't have work lined up, but I didn't have work lined up the next day.
Yeah.
And so it kind of gave me that time to think and go, oh shit, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? And so I was kind of sitting there thinking, and I'm like, okay, you're confident, right? Are you sure you're confident? And I remember I got a phone call, and it was like a Texas number, and I'm like, no, I'm not answering this, because we get spam calls all day.
Yeah.
And I didn't answer it, so they called back immediately. I'm like, all right, fine. So he calls, and he goes, hey, this is Jacob from Diamond Sea Trailers. I'm like, okay. And then it clicked, and I'm like, I was sitting in a meeting one day, and I entered to win a dump trailer online.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you won the trailer. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, this was after you...
The day after I was done.
No way.
And I called my wife, probably more emotional than I'll admit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. I think God put that in front of me. He's like, okay, I'm going to give you the tools that you need to do what you need to do.
Damn.
So I got in my truck, drove 18 hours one way to Texas, sleeping in gas station parking lots.
Yeah.
Went and got it. Had my first really awkward moment on camera. They're like, oh, tell us about, what do you like about the trailer?
You're like,
yeah.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
It was so miserable. That's why I was like, when you asked me to do this, I was like, all right, maybe you can, upgrade your filming career.
Right.
But yeah, so it's definitely been a trip. It's we're constantly growing. I'm my own worst enemy. You with ADHD and sitting there, and like I said, the worst part for me is the computer stuff.
Yeah.
So my wife really helps kind of basically tells me to get my shit together.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather be out with a shovel in my hand or running equipment.
Yeah, doing all the heavy work, huh?
Yeah.
So like when you left, was it like, did you just immediately start an LLC?
Yeah.
Did you guys did you have your own funding, or did you?
So I had an LLC, and as far as funding, no, we didn't have. We were not prepared.
Uh-huh.
You know, I didn't want to go out and take a bunch of loans.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as confident as you are, you're still never 100%. I wish I was that guy. I know there's a lot of people out there, but that just, you know, you have 4 kids and a wife, and you're like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in that basket, because if I don't do well, then they suffer, you know. And so basically I'm like, I've got to figure out a way to start this business with little to nothing. And so it was go out, sell yourself, sell your product, your service.
Were you just going to different construction sites, or was it how do you sell yourself in this type of?
Luckily for me, I had contacts, because I've been in this business for a while.
Okay.
So it really helped, you know, hey, I'm doing my own thing, you know, word of mouth, friends, you name it. Like, one of my first jobs was for a guy out here, awesome guy, and he just kept throwing me work.
Yeah.
I mean, just, hey, you did a good job here. I mean, I trimmed his citrus orchard and hauled it all away. And he's like, oh, that great job. And then I ended up laying over a mile of pipe on his ranch.
Oh, dang.
You know, and then he still calls me like every 6 months or something, you know. So having the contacts, having the friends, the word of mouth really kind of helped put it out there. And, you know, I charge a deposit. Mm-hmm. So that helped me kind of move things along. Like, you know, I didn't need all that capital or these credit accounts everywhere or things like that. And then, you know, it takes a village. If, you know, you can go at it alone, but if you have people willing to help you, you know, because you helped them in the past, or you just have really good friends, like, they'd loan me equipment. Yeah. You know, hey, what do you need?
Who are they? Because I might need some equipment.
Oh, I don't know if I can put that out there. Don't want to divulge my source, you know.
So you said there's like 3 aspects to your business, right? There's the commercial, residential,
and the ag
side.
Yeah.
What's more? Is there one busier than the other?
Commercial's super busy.
Is it?
Yeah, we do a lot of work, from, you know, food processing to retail stores to corporate offices to multifamily housing.
Mm-hmm.
Residential's kind of hit and miss, you know, because you're waiting on, you know, your neighbor to have money to do this or that. Where commercial, they're always needing something done. Whether it's usually compliance related, like, hey, you know, we need to change this out for this because the inspector didn't like this, or, you know, something like that. You know?
And then on the ag side of it, is it a little bit more relaxed, a little bit easier?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's relaxed. You're always on fire. It's
maybe those are the wrong words.
It's a slower pace. Yeah.
But the reason why I said relax is because I'm just thinking like big fields. You know, there's probably a lot less people around you.
Oh yeah,
and you're probably only dealing with somebody that probably truly understands what you're going through, or what you're doing, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey, just go out and get this done, and move on.
Yeah.
You know, you still have to sell yourself. You still have to prove that you can do the job. But once you're in there, you just.
I mean, I noticed on like your social medias that you have been getting a little bit more residential stuff, right?
Yeah, it's kind of cool because it's just fun to take something that's, you know, a blank slate.
Yeah.
And, you know, turn it into this really badass backyard.
Yeah.
You know, or somebody that, you know, just bought a house and they want to tear everything out. You know, it's a lot easier to start from on a new build.
Yeah.
But it is pretty cool taking something that's like super dated and turning it into something cool. So yeah, no, it's
Do a lot of residents like kind of give you the freedom, or do they kind of know what's going on, like what they want?
Well, a lot of people will call you and have this big grand plan, and then you kind of got to put it in perspective for them, like either it's cost or, you know, like, hey, this won't fit back here, or this isn't going to work, you know, things like that. It's definitely, it's different dealing on the homeowner side, but it's a lot more rewarding because they're super happy when you're done. Like you do the commercial side and they're like, oh, that's cool, thanks, we'll see you in 30 days, but they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is so amazing. It's pretty rewarding.
You did some good work, man. I was like, dang, Ryan can actually do that.
I need to do it a little more, maybe lose some lbs, but
on those residentials, are you... Well, let me ask you this question. How many people work for you right now?
On and off, I've got 4 or 5 guys.
4 or 5 guys?
Yeah, sometimes it's just me. It just depends.
Just by yourself?
Oh, yeah. I do a lot of work by myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
It just depends. I don't really have any full-time guys right now. They'll come and work depending on their scheduling.
Yeah.
We're in that weird stage of growth where it's like, as we get more consistent, then we'll have because I have guys that are willing to come work for me full time. It's just once we're full schedule, full blown all
you
the
want to
time.
make sure you have the jobs lined up.
Yeah, because I mean we have some weird situations happen. Like I've got I'll line up a job, and one of our most recent jobs that got cleared that we can do, it was on hold for 4 months for archaeological reasons. And they found pottery in a ditch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where is this at?
Over off of like 21st Street and Oak. So like that older Phoenix neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah. So
Damn.
A lot of that area has a lot of Native American stuff in it. Like you go closer to like Papago Park, which isn't actually, if you look at it on the map, isn't very far. Some of the first irrigation ditches in Arizona are still existing in that area.
No way.
Yeah, so that's
like from the Native American.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy how much history is still actually visible.
Are they still being used, or?
Not really. But any of the ditches that you see, like I do work in some of the older Phoenix neighborhoods, and they have orchard valves, and they're the original valves from when that neighborhood didn't exist, and it was a citrus orchard. So
dang,
all this stuff is old.
Yeah. What is that process like? So, you dig up dirt, right? Like that's the whole land management. What is the process of you're digging and then you come into contact with archaeological find, or
you report it? I mean,
to who?
You call there's certain, I basically would call like a university or something like that and get more. I haven't personally run across it, so I'm sure there's a process that I should know about, but generally I'd probably just call ASU or U of A and be like, hey,
come check it out,
you guys should deal with this. Because you're prepared for a gas line or electric or any utility because you called 811 before you dig, and but I run across a lot of stuff while digging. It's just never been that.
Damn, that's crazy.
No,
I always like wondered that, like like what the whole process is, but I'm assuming is that job where they found the pottery or whatever they found. Are you still waiting on it?
No, we're cleared now.
Oh, okay, but it did take about 4 months.
Yeah, and then even when we do that job, there's going to be somebody on site to observe the job.
Gotcha.
And make sure that if you see something, say something, kind of deal.
Yeah,
like, hey,
yeah. I could only imagine, dude, that.
Oh yeah.
How many people have dug stuff up that will probably either take it or.
Yeah, and see that's the thing. Like, I mean, it really stinks on our end because. It's like, oh, what's going on hold for another 4 months? But that's somebody's culture, You're, or God forbid you find bones. You're like,
yeah, what is that?
Yeah. So, I just think you have a moral obligation to deal with that in the right way.
Yeah. Is it for being like a business owner and like what you do? Is it hard to find good work?
Not really.
No.
I think the biggest issue people have is they won't answer their phone. You know, I talk to a ton of people, and they'll make a comment like, "Oh, the last guy just never showed up," or "He never sent me a bid," or "He just didn't answer the phone in general."
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's a huge issue. I don't know why people do that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I have my moments where I'm not as quick on the draw as I should be, but I still call them back. You know,
Yeah.
I'll still follow through, and because otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're not going to get the job.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a big, it's different.
Do you have any like young kids that work with you?
I do. I've got a guy who's, well, I mean, I guess he's not super young, but compared to me, he's younger.
Yeah.
Real go-getter, you know, good on equipment. And that's why I push so hard for these kids to, you know, if you don't want to go to college, go to a vocational school, because there's always somebody looking for a hand.
I feel like that was out there when me and you were going to school.
Oh yeah.
You know, I don't know how Peoria is now, but I know they had like auto, ag, building trades, you know, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's an awesome program, and you know, I think they don't fund it as much as they should.
Yeah.
You know, because you talk to anybody, and I've got friends from every industry, and I'm sure you guys experience this in your, you know, being a lineman. Finding people is hard.
Yeah.
Finding anyone willing to work that, you know, just because everybody wants to be an influencer or, I don't know, sell Amway or, you know, like they want the easy button.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's why I asked you if it was hard to find work, you know, because I mean, just these generations that are coming up, like I did listen to a podcast like, you know, a few weeks ago, and I guess the younger kids like in high school now, they are starting to venture off into the trades, but it's not enough to cover whatever we're going to be losing here in like the next 10, 15 years.
No, I think it's crazy. I mean, and they're even experiencing that with like law enforcement, fire department.
Oh yeah,
like all the old guard, if you will, is retiring, and you know.
I know some firefighters, and they said that like in like the last year, they had like 6 firefighters leave their, you know, quit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you know, it's just like, damn.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is I remember when I graduated, or no, when I came out of the Navy, you know, I was trying to pursue the whole fire department thing or be like a firefighter, and man, just applying for Phoenix, 6,000 people would put their application in, and then only 1,200 could take the test, and out of that 1,200, then you only have like 600 to interview. Like, it was a lot. Now when I'm working in Phoenix, I look at firefighters and fire trucks, and you see that they're advertising their job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you've never seen that before.
No.
You would never see a billboard of Phoenix Fire, you know, hiring and all that.
Yeah, because you used to see fire guys, and you're like, how long did it take you to get on?
Yeah.
You know, someone would be, you know, my dad's friend, it took him, you know, I think it was close to 10 years to get on.
Yeah, that was like back in the day too, right?
Yeah.
God damn. Man.
And now you look, and they look like your kid's age.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, that was a short process,
right?
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I feel like being a business owner, that would probably be the most challenging.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just finding good work.
Yeah.
You know, good people.
Now, when it comes to, like, you work for a company, do you ever get that itch to, like, go out and do your own thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I've always wanted to start something or to have something of my own, but it's like I don't know what I'm doing,
Right.
and I don't know what to do, right? Like, I don't know. Like, there was like one point where I did want to like help my father-in-law with his painting business and stuff, but even then, it's like he like let me help him a little bit, and I ended up like getting I talked to like my cousin's boyfriend or whatever, and he worked for this city, and we ended up like getting this big apartment job. But I think because I bid it like way too low.
Oh.
And so, you know, me being young, I was like really excited to go do it. And, you know, him like being in the business for so long, he's just like, nah, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, what would be your biggest motivation for change? Because I love asking people that. Like, why would you want to start your own thing?
For me?
Yeah.
Just to, I don't know, just to build something, you know,
Yeah.
just to have that challenge of like building something, and then
Sense
like
of ownership.
yeah,
right?
sense of ownership, and then kind of what like Nate has said before is like leaving that legacy to your kids, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that would be really cool, is like to build something and be like, all right, you know, who wants to like take it over,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, you know, that legacy is really important, I think.
Mhm.
You know, even if your kids don't want to take over your business, it's
Yeah.
still an opportunity. Like, I know a lot of guys that build businesses just to sell them, you know, so they're building that generational wealth. And,
Yeah.
you know, because, you know, I didn't have a lot of money growing up, you know, so it'd be nice to pass on something, you
Yeah.
know, that help that you can give your kids, so
Yeah.
they're not sitting there going, oh, I wish I had the money to do this or that, or, you know, buy their first house, or,
Yeah.
you know, things like that are a really big deal that you strive for. Because, I mean, it's hard to buy a house now.
Oh, dude,
You know,
it's crazy.
It's like, I've got a younger sister where I'm like, I don't know how you can survive working, you know, not a lower level job, but, you know, as an entry level worker and live on your own, you know.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's where I think a lot of people do try to hustle now to, you know, get to that level to where you can
Yeah.
just afford anything.
And I know, like, we were kind of knocking on the whole influencer
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
but that's another way that people can bring in income for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
kind of putting their lives out there.
Yeah, and
You
if
know?
you're good at, I mean, you know, maybe I knock it because that's not my forte.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, you're like you know, a big guy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You like to get your hands dirty.
Get my hands dirty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get down in there.
So I can hold a microfiber rag without it
What?
falling off. You know, you've never done that?
No.
Pick up a microfiber towel, and if your hands are rough enough, you can hold it upside down.
Really?
And it won't fall off.
Damn.
You know.
I don't think I could do that.
No?
I have to
You're
wear
not-
gloves.
Oh.
I have to wear gloves, dude.
See, I don't like hiring people that wear gloves.
Why?
Because it takes them too long to put them on and take them off.
What?
Yeah, they're sitting there like, you're like,
Well, it
dude,
kind of
let's
depends
go. We
on
gotta
what
go to
kind of
work.
glove it is, though, right?
I guess.
Because like I could get my gloves on real quick.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I could take them off real fast too.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not that much of a hard ass.
What is it about an employee? Like, what would be like your perfect employee? Obviously, showing up on time, but
Yeah, I mean, dude, showing up's half the battle. Like,
Yeah.
when we had the big company that I worked for, and, you know, I had all those guys every morning, you know, it'd be 4:30 in the morning at the yard. You're sitting there like, who's not going to show up today?
and you didn't really get to pick who's coming in or not, right? Like, were you part of that the hiring process?
Yeah, so at that company, I was part of everything.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I kind of I had a lot on my plate.
Mm-hmm.
So everything from hiring to firing to you name it, you know, talking to customers in the field and checking up on guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they knew what my truck looked like, and, you know, I had to deal with them in the yard every morning. And
Yeah.
we had some interesting stories. And
Does that kind of help you, like in today, like reading people and?
oh yeah, you
know?
can generally tell from the first couple minutes of an interview how somebody's going to be.
Mhm.
You know, whether they show up on time to the interview. You know,
Yeah.
how they're dressed, what, you know, and you can't. I'm not expecting this amazing person, that's like, some people are just looking for a job. They needed, they haven't had the best of luck, they're in between jobs or circumstance made them change their job. So, you grade on a curve a little bit, but you can generally tell how somebody's going to work.
Yeah.
Whether they're polite. Because a lot of these guys, I always used to tell my guys, you're the best advertising that we have as a company.
Mm-hmm.
You can put ads on Facebook, you can go out and knock on doors, but when someone drives by and sees your guys sharp, squared away, doing work, not just sitting on the side. I mean, I can't count how many times I've pulled up on a property and it looks like it's lunchtime all the time.
Yeah.
And so I used to tell the guys, I'm like, you're our best advertising. The better you do on that job site is the better we do.
Yeah.
Potential clients see you, our current clients see you. They're seeing the value of the dollar that they're paying.
Oh,
us,
yeah.
And so if you can, I always told them, think like an owner.
Yeah.
You provide value, it translates to your pay. And I think as time goes on, that mentality has kind of disappeared from our workforce. Workers feel underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel like the way they work will translate to anything, and it's unfortunate. That's why people job hop so much.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest compliments I ever received is when I left that company. I got text messages like, "You were the best boss we ever had," and all these different things. I'm like, wow, that's cool. I made a difference.
Yeah.
And
I know that, like, being on the working side of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you're the boss and if you're just taking care of your guys, like when they're calling and they say, hey, I need like, a day off because of this. All right, cool. Like, as long as you're not making them feel bad, like as long as I'm not like feeling guilty for missing work.
Oh yeah.
Then I feel taken care of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, I need this tool right here, or I need that. All right, cool. Boom,
Yeah. Well, and it's a matter of, going out, and because I was never above any job, I'd be, dressed pretty nice to go talk to a customer and then come home looking like someone roughed me up in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Because, I'd be in a hole or I'd be out on a property, Granted, I mean, they do it all the time. So, I'd go out and show them what's up on a property, and then I'd get back in my truck and cry a little bit, like, oh man, that was rough.
Yeah.
Because, you want to do it fast and look good.
Oh, yeah.
But, no, I always wanted to go out and do the work. And then, being in that industry, we have storm damage calls and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
any after hours calls or weekend calls, I'd go do it myself, because I'm like, these guys work their asses off all week.
Oh, okay.
Unless it was something that I just had to have someone because I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But no, I'd be out at 2:00 in the morning, chaining trees up behind my truck, dragging them through parking lots and stuff, because I'm like, I'm not waking these guys up for that.
Yeah. Like let them have their time off.
Yeah. But so if you show them the respect, and if they ask for advice, I'm not saying go out to the bar with them. I think there's a good relationship of, a separation.
Oh yeah.
Between a boss and an employer, but or an employee, excuse me, but just being friendly and showing that you're willing to put yourself out there for them, and
kind of like be on their levels sometimes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But you also have to have that, you also have to have like an arm distance a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, because you are the boss.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with the disciplinary stuff, and that's always a nightmare,
Oh yeah.
Especially when you have that many people, there's always something. I mean, it was always usually on a Friday, something would pop off, and you're like, really? Why do you got to do this today? Yeah, I mean, anything from, drinking any substance, or, getting in fights, because you put 4 guys in a truck from varying backgrounds, and they all work together. It's hot.
Yeah.
Someone says something, just threw a rock at the hornet's nest. Yeah.
Well, the good thing about like also like men too is, they could be in a fight on a Tuesday and then come in on a Wednesday
Oh yeah. Well,
and it's like nothing happened.
I used to tell the guys, I'm like, if you guys can't handle dealing with each other and with words in our yard, go outside and whoop each other's ass and then come back to work.
Yeah.
You're like, just get it over with.
Yeah.
You know, because all you're doing is stopping yourself from making money at this point.
Exactly.
Because then you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
You know, so. And then there's just some guys that'll work for you that you're like, well, this isn't going to be good. Because we had one guy, and really nice HR lady. She used to call me all the time, and she's like, hey, I've got this new guy starting, you know, really nice kid, just keep an eye on him. And so sent him out on a truck, and first day goes by, and she calls me. She's like, how did he do? And I go, somebody's gonna punch him in the face. And she's like, no, you're such, no, you know,
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that won't happen, you know. And so like 2 days later, she calls me. She's like, so how's he doing? I'm like, somebody punched him in the face. You know.
But he's all right now.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, he's fine. They did it outside the yard, so I was like, all right. Still had to deal with it, but.
So you said your wife, she is part of the business now?
Yeah. So she's she quit her job. You know, she was driving 45 minutes one way into town because we moved back out to Buckeye. So she worked in Peoria when we lived in Peoria. So it got pretty old for her.
Yeah.
She worked with some friends, and so that was really nice. They were super accommodating of, you know, kids and scheduling and things like that. But even then, it's still hard when you have 4 kids. Everybody's doing, you know, 4-H stuff or horse stuff and just
all over the place.
Scheduling.
Oh, yeah.
But she's been my godsend. She's always lifted me up. I mean, from the time I met her, she's always pushed me, like, you know.
She's pretty strong if she lift you up.
Oh, dude. Yeah, for a little one, she'd probably smack me around a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
What part does she do in the whole business?
So she's more of, she'll jump on the computer because, like I said, I hate that.
Yeah.
More into the social media stuff because she's far more consistent. You know, I'll get home and I'm like, I don't want to post anything. I don't want to do this. You know, she's good about reminding me of things because I'm all over the place.
Oh yeah.
You know. Like, oh, you need to do this, and I'm sure I'm really easy to deal with. You know, I probably take it really well when she's always reminding me to do stuff.
Are you being sarcastic?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. But yeah, no, she's been a really integral part of the business so far, and as we grow, I think because she's got a pretty decent background in, like, you know, the accounting side of the business and, you know, ordering stuff. So as we grow, it's really gonna kind of take a load off of me.
Have you guys ever like clashed, or has that happened yet? All the time.
Yeah. Like, well, so the other day, because she kind of jumped on the social media after I did it, because I'm like, I can do anything, you know.
Yeah.
But she's like, you need to stop posting. She's like, you're not doing it right. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You know. And then I think things are way more funny than they are appropriate than, you know, she does. So she's like, don't post that on your company page. Well, but it's funny.
Have you guys talked about, like, if there's ever a disagreement with the business, like how that is going to go, or?
No, we've been married for 15 years. Excuse me. But, so we're kind of used to problem solving already through our personal relationship. So I'm sure there's going to be that moment, but
yeah, you guys will probably handle it. Just fine.
I don't really, because at the end of the day, she's always kind of made me the final decision. But usually if she brings something up, there's a reason for it, and I try to listen to it the best I can.
So obviously you probably do use heavy equipment, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And you said some people like will let you borrow their stuff.
Oh yeah.
Do you own your own equipment?
No.
Of any
so
sort?
a lot of what I do is rentals.
Okay.
I think overhead, I'm trying to keep my overhead low. A lot of companies I worked for were very heavily saddled in debt, and it's because of the equipment they bought, or constantly having to repair equipment. And rental equipment, it's a hit and miss. Sometimes you get something really great and you're like, oh, this is great. Sometimes you don't. I've literally taken a piece of equipment to a job site and it didn't work, and I fixed it.
Really?
Yeah, I was doing a cleanup on the side of a railroad tracks, and the mower blades, it was a tractor, a mower that pulled behind a tractor, and the blades were just gone. So I'm like, I cannot stop this job. Give me the blades. I will put them on your tractor. And whether that's their company policy, I'm not going to name names, but
yeah,
I just went and did it. So, I mean, it's not the perfect situation all the time, but, going back to the debt part, there's a lot of times where, on the office side, they're like, man, payroll's coming up. This is going to be a tough one. And I'm like, I don't want to live that life. I don't want to, I want to build the business based on, us making money and being able to put that back into our employees and our, our company, afford things for our family and their families. And being heavily saddled in debt just seems like just this huge weight on your shoulders. And I know that all businesses have debt. It's just how you acquire it and utilize it. If you do it the smart way, great. But no, being completely saddled in debt just so you can have new stuff or flex that you're like, oh, I've got all this equipment. No, I'm good. I'll rent it. I'll proudly advertise their rental company on our job sites.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you did mention that your kids do 4-H.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's awesome.
Oh,
I think that is probably one of the best things that kids these days can get into.
It is so cool. I mean, so we were in Peoria. The kids were in school. It was, my kids are country kids, so it was kind of different. My kids would get made fun of. Oh, you wear boots to school, whatever. They'll pick anything out they can make fun of.
Yeah. Kids are assholes sometimes.
Oh,
man.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
I remember being a kid, and I was just like that.
Oh, I was a turd.
Yeah.
I was probably mean and snotty and all that stuff.
I mean, to my offense too is like, or my defense too, I also got made fun of a lot.
Oh, yeah, dude.
So it's like,
yeah, I got made fun of, and the biggest difference now is, if you got made fun of in school when we were younger, it stopped when you got home. It doesn't stop when they get home now. And so it is so painful seeing your kids like feel like crap about themselves, and you're like, I can't go hit another kid,
right?
But I really want to, because the things they said or did, it was just really rough. So when they got into 4-H, it was kind of like a sanctuary for them, because they were around kids that were, raised pretty well, like-minded. It was just really nice, and they're all accepting. It wasn't like, oh, we're the cool kids, and then you have these like
what are you wearing today?
Yeah, and granted, you have the like, oh, we show sheep or we show goats.
Yeah,
we're super cool, But I'm just kidding. But no, everybody's super supportive, willing to help. Like, hey, this is what I do. I think you should do that. It's just a collective, and there is competition there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just like with anything, like it can get to a point with some people. I haven't experienced this. I think on more of like, maybe back east or at a jackpot level, where it gets super competitive, and it kind of, to me, would take the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Where
they kind of, it's not about the kids, it's about like winning.
Oh yeah. And that's my biggest thing. I'm not here for me.
Yeah.
I'm not here to make a name for myself. I want my kids to experience the responsibility, the competitiveness, in seeing a project from its infancy into it paying off.
So if there's a parent out there that's listening to this that wants their kids to get into 4-H, how's that process? What is it that they have to do?
So the best thing I can say is find a local 4-H club. You can Google it, I'm sure. And then just call them. And like I said, they're the most helpful people on the planet. So they'll probably give you more information than you could ever think you'd need.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, do they start off with like an animal or like?
No, so they have like clover buds, which is basically if your kids are super young, they go and do different activities and things like
gotcha.
that. There's 4-H is cool because they've got multiple ways for kids to do different. They have a shooting sports side of it.
Oh. See, I thought it was just all raising animals.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty cool. There's I'm not well versed in the other stuff, but they have like sewing and all that cool stuff too. I'm more my kids show pigs, so that's pretty heavily saddled in our time,
Yeah.
because it takes a lot. I mean, it's not, and that's the thing is you'll quickly, the first year, the kid, you're learning with the kids and you're going to have your frustration. I mean, you're going to have your frustrations no matter what. Because it's a project.
Yeah.
We had a pig die, and you get to deal with that side of stuff, and it's frustrating because you put all this time and money into something and it's like, wow, that was quick.
Yeah.
And I mean, luckily this pig that died was early on. We've known people that had their pig die like right before county fair.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Damn.
And you're like, wow.
So what's the process of the animal coming in to this 4-H? So like, do you get it? So let's just say for pigs, do you get it as a piglet?
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, they're fairly new. They're still on mama for a while. So you'll get them, once they're weaned off, and then you just basically start from scratch. And luckily, we have a good friend of ours that was super helpful as far as like feeding and things like that, because I never had pigs.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that you need to do to give them different fat and protein percentages, and you're just like, oh, this is a lot.
Really?
Yeah. So there's some science behind it. And
what's the judging like?
It's not consistent. That's the biggest thing and the hardest thing for the kids is you'll have judges that like certain things and some do not. And so there's no perfect way to raise a pig or show a pig because it's very opinion based. Like there's a judge at the last fair, or no, 2 fairs ago, he was like, I don't like when the kids have a brush in their hand in the ring. And this was part of the showmanship side of it. And so I always tell the kids, I'm like, go listen to what that judge has to say.
So will the judge come and talk to everybody? Or?
They'll talk. Well, so they'll talk to the kids sometimes, but a lot of the time, if you're watching the other classes before you go, you can see what they like, what they don't like.
Oh, gotcha.
And so they'll, like I said, with that brush, I watched my daughter and she I don't know where the brush went, whether she threw it somewhere or, put it in her pocket, but she cued in on that. And I think it helped her, she doesn't have it. Everybody else does.
That's so crazy.
And then you'll have certain people that like a certain structure of a hog, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't change how a hog looks. You know, the day of. I mean, you can do a little bit, but not enough to really sway anything. So. And
how many are all 4 of your kids doing it?
Yeah. Well, so the for this coming county fair, all 4 kids are going to do it.
Are they all doing pigs or?
Yeah, we're all doing pigs. Yeah, they like it. I mean, pigs are an interesting animal to have. They're not as controllable because, like with sheep, cattle, goats, you have the ability to control them a little bit. Where a pig will take your ass out.
Yeah.
Like we had Maddie, my oldest. She was showing at this last county fair, and this pig did not care to be there. Almost took out like all their AV equipment because it was pushing the panels, and she was doing so well.
Yeah,
and because
they have to bring the kid or the pigs into the little arena, right? And they got to kind of control them.
Yeah, direct them one way or another. And this one's like, no, I'm going outside whether you like it or not. And there's a contest or called Pride of County, and so it's for county raised pigs, and who's the best looking pig. And you can tell this judge just loved her pig. And because he looked like a leopard, which is not really common. Mm-hmm. He had a really good structure, like just wide and just looked really good.
Yeah.
He was watching this pig, like almost stalling the show, but this pig will not walk. So if this pig would have walked 10 feet, she would have won.
What?
Yeah, but no, the pig stood in the corner. It was like basically trying to push its way out.
And she just couldn't get him.
No, because
are they? When your kids are handling the pigs, are they trying to teach them to do all this? Or?
Yeah, and for the most part, they do pretty well. But it's an animal. Everything. Yeah. Just like when we get on a horse, nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
You don't as good of a rider as you are. You just something could happen.
Just never know.
Yeah,
I know. Sure. That's like one of the scariest things. Like me getting into horses and stuff like that, I just always thought you could get on any horse and you could just go ride.
Nah.
Just like what you see on the movies. It's like, damn, I could do that.
Yeah.
But being into it and having people that have been in it their whole lives and just figuring all that stuff out, there's a lot, man.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot.
And there's just like like we said with the pig judging, there's so many opinions.
Oh, dude. Oh man.
If you do something, there's going to be one person telling you you're doing it right and 20 people are telling you you're doing it wrong, know. And that's when I started riding, because I was, I didn't ride my whole life like where you jump in and you figure it out. And so I told myself, I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to set my ego aside and just figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. It's hard to sit there and just go, I don't know.
It is. Especially like for me, because I watch a lot of YouTube videos, man. And I'll be like watching this guy doing it. And then, for example, like Logan, right? So I use Logan a lot, and he'll tell me something else. And my wife will tell you, like, if I have something in my mind that I, think is right, it's hard for me to see the other point of view. So like to your point, it's like I have to do that. Like I have to just shut it down and just listen to who's ever there.
Yeah. And depending on your teacher, it makes it even harder. It's just Ty Schaefer, he's one of those guys that kind of, when I first started riding, because you got your buddies, they'll tell you a lot, and you're just like, almost get overwhelmed. Well, he kind of took me aside and he's like, just do this. Here's one thing you need to concentrate on.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what I need. Because when I first started, I had like 10 people telling me what to do. And I'm just like, I can't. I'm already overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I'm terrified.
You're on a fucking big-ass animal that has its own brain.
Like,
so.
As badass as I think I am. Dude, the biggest reality check I had. So I got over the fear of riding, in the arena. And I was just like, okay. Because you ride when you're a kid a little bit. And you're like, they're usually on a broke-ass horse.
Like a trail ride?
Yeah. Well, no, not even that.
Oh.
You just ride around an arena on a broke horse. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm a cowboy.
Yeah.
But the hardest thing for me was I got over the arena fear. And then I had my first trail ride. I'm like, oh, this will be cool, And I never really gone up and down anything.
Oh.
And so we get maybe, 500 yards in, and we go down in our first, wash. And I'm like, oh, shit. I feel so unstable.
Yeah.
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
I need to, I had this internal dialogue, don't turn back. But I know you really want to because you're scared.
Yeah.
And then this 10-year-old girl rides by me, with one hand, and she's just kind of looks at me, and I'm like, you need to get your shit together, Ryan. Like, if this little girl is not scared,
Yeah.
you need to get your life together.
Yeah, you need to do better.
Yeah, and so, being on that trail ride, I had guys around me. They're like, hey, do this, do that. And once I did that, and what's funny is it's these stupid small things that you can't think of in your head at the time, but they're like, hey, lean back, lean forward, do this. And then you're like, dude, this is badass. This is a great time. I'm sure you experienced that, Pony Express and doing things like...
Well, the Pony Express last year was like my first time actually like riding, right? Like, you remember when I think I was on Tyler's leg with him, and I think you and Shell were at one of these gates, or maybe it was like, I think you, Shell, and Marty were at one of the gates.
Probably not talking shit at all.
No, I mean, I couldn't hear you because I was too dialed in, and I was riding 45, and we had to go up and around, right? Looking back, like, it's just like a little tiny steep little hill. Like I could do it now just fine, but back then, dude, it's like, oh my god, and then so I got through that, I lived through that, and then when we got to Prescott, where we go in that
lot,
that parking lot, we did the whole parade, right? And I think I was riding Cooper at the time, and when we had to come back up that big hill, dude, I was not ready, man. No, hell no. So we're like going up, and I see everybody, and I see all their horses just start, because the horse knows what it needs to do, right? It, like, all the horses start running up. I've never ran on a horse, right? And I'm just like, I really want to go to the side where I know that it's not very steep, but everybody's going this way, and I don't want to be that guy, right? And so, Cooper's like going, and then he sees, he's following all the other horses and just starts going. Like going up this hill, and I wasn't ready, dude, and I don't think I put my saddle on right or tight enough, and I come out of there all sideways. It's like, oh
that shit.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
Well, and having your buddies there, like, I'll have Shell and Marty riding with me.
Yeah,
and it takes the edge off because you're not concentrating on what you're doing. You're just more bullshitting back and forth, and but there's like I said, there's still an opportunity for an accident. Like I've gotten off a few times and hit the ground, and it hurts.
I have not been knocked off.
Man, I
knock on some wood.
I lost my reins and went on a ride, and
really
it was kind of one of those. We're in the arena messing with the chute, and he heard the chute, and I didn't have a tight grip, and I lost those reins, and his head was in the dirt, and I could not grab him. So I had my hands around the horn, leaning back, going, whoa. And it was almost dark, and I'm like, I don't know if he sees the fence, and I'm not going to find out. And so I bailed off the side of him.
Yeah.
And I think the crater is still in the dirt to this day because I hit the ground hard.
Was that you on that day?
Yeah. And my wife comes up to me, and I'm laying on the ground, and she's like, oh my God. I'm like, get away from me. I need to breathe. And so we finally get home, and I rode for another hour after that. I'm like, because I always tell the kids, get back on.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I got to,
But you didn't really want to get back on.
Well, it hurt.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, you can do this.
Yeah.
And so we get home, and I'm like getting undressed. I'm like, ow, everything hurts. And Megan's like, you need to go to the hospital. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I'm not paying to go check. So finally she's like, you have kids, you need to go to the hospital, And so I go in, and they're like, so you fell off a horse? And I'm like, no. I got off the horse on my own. I did not fall off the horse.
I decided.
Yeah, but like I tore my pec. Luckily, I didn't really do anything else, but man, it hurt. And it made you realize, like most of the issues you have on a horse are probably your fault.
Yeah.
Because they know what they're doing. I mean, there's been so many times where I'll be on a trail ride, and I think I know better, and then I end up going right through a bush or, something because I took control when I probably shouldn't have. They don't care. They don't see the height, though. So you got to pay attention on the trees.
I was about to say, because I just went riding with Oakley the other day, and there's like this big old area where there's like a bunch of trees, and they're all thorny, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I was like, all right, well, let's see what you do. And no, I was getting all scraped up and everything. So
yeah,
I was like, no, I'm going to decide where we're going to go because I'm not going to get scratched up.
Yeah, no, they think they're doing fine.
Yeah.
You know? They're like, oh, not a big deal. You're over there missing your hat.
Yeah.
You know.
I did have a oh shit moment with Oakley when we did the Pony Express parade in Wickenburg. And Logan and Tree, they could attest to this, but like she started like bucking because I think she stepped on something.
Oh.
And I was trying to like, you know, take some pictures and stuff, and I had my phone right here, and she just starts out of nowhere, dude. And I just remember, you know, the one thing that I really want to know is like how to, you know, hold on.
Right.
Well, you know, I grabbed the horn and I turned her head one way, you know, and that obviously helped me out. But dude, I was scared, man.
Oh yeah.
You know.
But did you sit it? You didn't come off, right?
No.
So you felt like Billy Badass.
Oh, dude.
Like,
I felt like Little Tree, like in his little bronc.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, dude.
I'm a cowboy.
Where's my buckle at?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we've been at parades where, you know, you're going through the road and they'll hit like a fire lane, and some of the horses won't cross it. You're like, really? They get all freaked out.
Really?
They see the lines.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Some of the weirdest shit that you wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's why, like, my daughter's horse hates tarps. So I look like Superman. I'll walk around with the tarp
Get
on,
her all...
you know, just because you never know what's going to freak him out.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I don't want to find out the hard way either. So,
yeah.
you know,
I've been, like,
digress.
taking bags, like feed bags, and, like, fill them up, and then I'll throw them on Oakley, because this last Pony Express, every time I got the mail, she was freaking out.
Oh,
you know, so
yeah,
just gotta do something.
Yeah, no.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, thanks for having
being
me
on the podcast and everything. Is there anything that hopefully this blows up? Right. Hopefully this is the episode that just Is there anything that you want to say or?
No, I'm pretty good. I just appreciate being here. You know, it's good to be on a podcast where I feel like we're pushing normal. Like you know, it's making normal mainstream again.
Exactly.
And getting people the opportunity to share their stories and talk. And you know, you guys are doing well so far. So I can only see it going up from here.
And if anybody needs to contact you, like say they want to get their backyard, their front yard done.
Yeah, I think we can do the link to the on Instagram or
well, okay. So we'll go ahead and add that on there and everything.
Yeah,
okay.
But Thorman Land Management, you can look it up in the search bar, or we'll have the.
He's kind of like Billy, or what's his name in Landman?
Oh, Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, he's kind of like that. Yeah, but just not like that.
Ornery and cantankerous, just 100 pounds heavier.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
You, friends, everyone's gonna be friends. And plus, you better ride like you ride.